well as a program focused on supporting communities that are experiencing disasters. So while they're all different programs, they do have connections to each other, and really the one goal that connects them is that they're all trying to positively impact humanity. And again, through this open, globally connected, secure, and trustworthy internet. And then in addition to these grant programs, the foundation also funds the internet governance forums, as well as the schools of internet governance. And we also provide funding to the Internet Engineering Task Force. So this is just some background around the programs that we fund and how they all work together. And so when it comes to the chapter funding opportunities, the Beyond the Net Small and the Beyond the Net Large are the two grant programs that I'm sure you're all most familiar with. And these are designed to support the chapters and the special interest groups and to help them implement projects that can make a local impact. And of course, these are always very innovative projects that are looking at ways to use the internet to support their communities in some way. I'll just go briefly into each of them. And also the information on all these programs is on our website. And on this slide, this is the link that goes straight to the Beyond the Net Small program. So the objectives of the program, as you see here, it's really about strengthening the impact of the ISOC and the foundation's mission, helping contribute to the development of the chapter and the local community. It's helping to engage the members and the chapter leadership around a common activity. And it's also helping to develop or strengthen existing relationships or partnerships at the local level. So a lot of these grants, as you'll see, they might go to activities that are aimed at increasing membership of a chapter, or maybe helping increase the chapter's understanding around a particular topic, things like that. But it's really all about how can we continue developing and strengthening the chapters and their activities. And these grants offer funds of up to $3,500 for projects lasting up to 6 months. And a chapter can have 2 small grants at a time, as long as that chapter has been established to be in good standing. And we made one change to this program just recently. If you'll remember, previously there were certain timelines where you had to submit your application by a certain date, but we've realized that we needed to provide a little more flexibility. And so now the application call is much more flexible and it's open all year round. So that's the Beyond the Net Small program. And again, there is more information on our website. The Beyond the Net Large grant program, this one offers grants of up to $30,000 for longer projects. And these are projects lasting up to 24 months. And a chapter is eligible to get 1 large grant at a time. And for these focus areas, this is another change we recently made to the program. We realized that while in the past we had requested chapters to submit proposals that aligned with the 8 ISOC project areas, as we would analyze the applications that came in, we realized that there were different areas that chapters were interested in, and we saw that at least 50% of the applications were actually touching these areas you see here: connectivity, growing local internet-related knowledge, understanding usage, and promoting innovation. So we've adjusted the program guidelines and made it more flexible so that you don't have to submit a project that ties to one of the ISOC 8 project areas. If there's something a little different that falls in one of these 4 points you see here, then we welcome those applications as well. And again, it was all about responding to what we were receiving and trying to provide a little bit more flexibility for the chapters. And this is also open all year round for applications, which was another adjustment we made to provide flexibility. So another thing we wanted to point out that we established earlier this year was our training resources. So as a foundation, we're really committed to helping the organizations that apply for funding with us we want them to submit the best and the strongest grant applications. And so we're really interested in helping people think about not just the details of your project, how you'll execute, but also what is the impact you want to have. And so on our website, we've developed a set of training modules. It's called the Grant Application and Project Implementation Guidance. And this training really takes you through all the steps that you would need to know when you're preparing your grant application. So everything from, let's say you've identified a problem in your community. So this walks you through how do you define that problem? How do you develop a theory of change around that problem? How do you then set objectives and then develop activities that are associated to those objectives? How do you develop a project budget? How do you establish key performance indicators? So everything that a grantee would need to be thinking about as they submit an application, we've covered all of that in this guidance, and it's available to anyone. We've put it on our website, but we really do encourage all the chapter community to look at this, because it's really useful information, whether it's for an application you're preparing for and submitting to the foundation, or to another organization that you might be interested in. So we just wanted to call your attention to this training guidance that is available. And it's, again, about us also just trying to really send the message that we care about impact and want to do all we can to support the organizations we fund in thinking about impact as they design their projects. So I'm going to jump here and just very briefly do an overview of our program areas. And I know the words might be a little small, but I'll start with skills, since I'm sure I won't talk about Beyond the Net anymore, but so skills stands for Strengthening Communities, Improving Lives and Livelihoods. And this is a program we launched in May this year. And it's all about, how can we support communities and help them to use the internet and use it in a way that really has impact in their lives. So going beyond access, so let's say now you have access to internet, but we know that there's an additional step in that. Is someone prepared to knowledgeably and skillfully use the internet in a way that can really make a difference in their lives? And so the program's overarching goals are to expand economic growth, improve health outcomes, and increase educational opportunities. So the organizations that we funded are all working in one of these three areas, and they're supporting organizations to use the internet to improve their lives in one of those areas. And I'll speak in a little more detail about those. As I mentioned, we responded to the pandemic through our emergency response COVID-19 program, and we are supporting 4 organizations that are working on projects that use the internet to respond to an emergency situation. And so we were excited that we were able to respond in time and launch this program and get the funding out to these organizations that are doing really great work. We also have our research program, which launched in September. And this is all around helping to cultivate more research around the future of the internet, and helping just add to a body of knowledge around, what might the internet look like in 30 years, and what are the things we should be thinking about to ensure that the internet remains safe, remains secure, remains sustainable, that kind of thing. So we're inviting research from independent research, as well as independent researchers, as well as institutions who are doing work in this area. And then the last 2 programs, I won't go into too much detail, because the truth is we're still shaping them, and they are going to launch later in 2021. But they're all about innovation and how can we support innovative efforts around the internet, and then also how can we support organizations that are helping when it comes to disaster resilience, and helping communities who are prone to experiencing disasters, be it floods or hurricanes, natural disasters, and how can we help those communities through technology enhance their preparedness and build resilience. So those are 2 programs that are still in their early stages. And I think going into 2021, we'll be able to share more details around them. So a little bit more on the skills program. As I mentioned, it's all around these three focus areas around expanding economic growth, improving health, and increasing educational opportunities. And this was launched as a pilot program, so just looking at 3 countries in 3 different regions of the world. And so we targeted organizations in Bangladesh, in Colombia, and in Senegal. And the funding, it was up to $150,000 for projects lasting up to 2 years. And so we have at this point actually selected 9 organizations who will be receiving these skills grants. We chose 3 organizations from each country. And so sometime probably later this month, we'll be sharing an announcement that talks about these organizations and what they're doing. And we do anticipate that going forward we'll expand to different countries, but still keeping within these 3 regions. And then just quickly a little bit more about our research program. As I mentioned, it's all about helping to facilitate research that will generate solutions around the internet. So we know that there are a lot of challenges out there in the world that are related to the internet. And so how can we help in generating solutions? How can we support researchers who are studying the internet, thinking about the future of the internet? And so we do have 2 areas of focus for 2020. We're thinking about the greening of the internet. And so that's really thinking about, how does the internet affect the environment, things like climate change? And then also, how does the environment affect the internet, and what are the connections between the 2? And then the internet economy is, all around the fact that the internet has changed how we do so much, how we buy, how we sell, how we just interact, and it's transformed economies. So what does that look like? And what might that look like in 30 years? So we're inviting research around this. And we've purposely left these topics broad because we really do want to leave as much room as possible for the researchers to come in and shape really exciting proposals related to both. And then in 2021, we'll be shifting to 2 different areas of focus, which will be a trustworthy internet and then also the digital divide. And so just here, I just wanted to share a snapshot of our grantees. As I mentioned, we've expanded our portfolio beyond the Beyond the Net program. And so as you see here, we have, of course, the Internet Society and all the Internet Society chapters around the world who are doing really fantastic work. So that would be, one of the type of grantee we fund. And these are just a few others that we've signed on in the past year. And these 4 you see here are actually grantees under our emergency response COVID-19 program. So they're all doing different work related to the pandemic. And I'll point out this one as it is in your region and you might have heard of it. But Shagado are a fact-checking organization, and they submitted a proposal to us which was asking for support to help them expand the platform that they've developed. And it's a platform that supports Latin American fact checkers and makes it easier for them to provide reliable information. And in this case, reliable information about the pandemic. So through our support, they're going to be expanding this platform, providing automation, and just all around making it easier to support fact checkers across the region. And just one other point I'll say here is that as our portfolio has expanded, we do encourage partnerships with our different grantees. So for example, I know that when we launched our skills program, we had a lot of interest and people asking questions from different chapters. And they were saying things like, oh, if I have an idea, could I partner with a different organization in my region? And could we submit an application? And the answer is yes, we're open to that kind of collaboration, to those kinds of arrangements, because at the end of the day, we want to do as much as we can to support people. And so we do encourage that kind of collaboration and partnership. And just quickly, some of the milestones we've seen this year, we implemented a new grants management system to make it just easier for people to submit applications and also easier for us to review and to get back to our applicants. As I mentioned, we've developed training resources. We very recently hired a monitoring and evaluation manager. And that, again, is just reinforcing the focus we have on impact and on making sure that as a foundation, we're measuring what we do, and also that all the programs we support and the grantees we support, we also want to make sure we're supporting them in their monitoring and evaluation efforts and helping them to be as successful as possible. And then, as I mentioned, we've launched additional programs in addition to Beyond the Net. So the Emergency Response COVID-19 program and the Skills program. Oh, and the research program, which I forgot to put here. And then coming up for 2021, we will be continuing to build out our training resources. We will be launching 3 additional grant programs. And we're also going to start thinking, going farther into 2022, thinking about fundraising and thinking about how can we identify potential funders or partnerships that can help scaling the foundation's work. Because while we do get at this moment our funding from ISOC, the same way that ISOC is funded by PIR and other organizations, that's the same source of funding we have. But we do realize, looking far out to be sustainable, we will have to also develop our own fundraising strategy and identify alternative sources of funding. So that's something on our radar, but further out for 2022. And so just reminding people again, if you have questions about your grants, the best way to send messages, we have the Beyond the Net email box, email here that you can write to. And if you're having technical issues within our grants management system, this is the Flux Help Desk. And then just to close, we just encourage you to continue to stay connected to us. The best ways are to visit our website, isocfoundation.org. On our homepage, there's also an option to sign up for our newsletter, which we send out every month or so. You can also follow us on social media, and then we also usually will include updates in the chapter newsletter that goes out every 2 weeks. So I will stop here. And just again, I want to say that it was a pleasure to join you all and to share a little bit about the foundation. And again, we are, on behalf of the foundation, I just wanted to say it's just an honor to be able to support the really great and inspiring work that's happening across the chapters. And so I'll stop here and maybe I'll stop sharing. And I realize I didn't turn on my video the whole time. So here I am. I was having challenges in the beginning. But thanks so much.
Muchas gracias, Mabel.
Thank you so much, Mabel. There's a question by Jackson Vega. He says, do we have to do everything through our country chapter, or can we directly apply for the grant?
I believe that you do have to apply through your chapter. So yes, at least letting your chapter know that you're applying and then submitting the application officially as a chapter. I do believe that is the process. Yes.
Perfecto. De hecho, voy a...
Great. Okay, so to what Mabel was saying, I would like to add that members of each chapter need to apply through their chapter, and the procedure for that is that the member needs to contact the board or the leaders of the local chapter, explain what their project is about, and the chapter decides whether or not that project aligns with and follows the requirements of and the strategy at the local level. So it's important that if you as a member are interested in applying for a grant of the ISOC Foundation, you do so through your chapter. Then there's another question as well, and it is, I understand that all of the granting programs from ISOC will be delivered under the foundation. Does that include ongoing support for chapters?
Esta la puedo contestar yo, sí.
I guess I'm not sure what ongoing support for chapters is, because we have the small grants and the large grants, and those programs are of course here to stay. And the small grants, as I mentioned, are designed to help a lot with the development of the chapter, whether it's activities like training or building up the membership. So yes, I guess I'm not so sure what ongoing support means, but the small and large grant support to the chapters is definitely continuing.
Carlos, creo que tal vez
Carlos, were you referring to the administrative funds? Because that does not depend on the foundation. The administrative fund for chapters is actually handled by the regional staff of ISOC, actually. And the funds that you can apply for are related to, let's see, Beyond the Net program, and they're more connected to chapter management, if you will. But the administrative funding are managed by the regional ISOC staff. And then someone else asks about the speaker's name. Her name is Mabel Gunda. You can write it down. Jackson is asking, who sponsors ISOC specifically?
Do you mean, well, if the question is who provides funding for ISOC, the answer for that would be PIR. Is the organization that has provided funding for ISOC for, I'm not sure, for quite some time, and that will continue to. And then ISOC also receives funding through sponsorships and also the different members that are part of the Internet Society. So for example, there's some larger organizations that join and that will provide funding. This is usually, maybe for a specific event or a specific program, but the bulk of the funding has come from an organization named PIR.
Luego hay otra pregunta de
Okay, there's another question by Andres Victor. He says, how soon should we present the project to the foundation prior to its implementation?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I don't have the dates in front of me, but I know on our website, for example, well, what I'll say is, since we changed the timing to make the applications open year round, our programs team, they try to review as soon as possible. So for example, if you submitted a proposal, let's say on November 1, you might be starting your project maybe in a month or so. It really depends, but they have committed to reviewing the applications as soon as possible and then getting out the funding. So maybe on that one, let me check on the website if we have anything specific, but because it is on a rolling basis now, we try to review applications, send out the grant agreements, and then disperse the funding as soon as possible.
Muy bien, veamos.
Okay, great. Carlos, I don't know if you wanted to ask something else because you had your hand up. I just opened your mic so you can speak.
Hello, hello.
Okay,
Carlos
let's
aquí.
see. Hi, I'm Carlos. Oh no, he stopped talking. So I'm going to.
Hello. ¿Cuál es
Hi,
la
can you
foto?
all hear me? I'm
No, no
Carlos
quiero hablar
Alfonso.
nada. Yo.
I don't.
Creo que también es importante hacer otra aclaración.
They're having issues. They're both talking at the same time. So one thing that I would like to clarify, and this is something that many of you asked through the WhatsApp chat, is that whether or not we provide funding for topics that are not related to the internet. And I do want to focus on this because we only focus on projects and fund projects that are related to internet and the development of the internet. So if you are interested in something that does not align with our mission or vision, we won't provide funding for it. Jorge Benetti asks, is it just material equipment or research? So do you, Jorge, I think it's your question is not clear. I don't understand what you're asking. So can you please explain? Okay. Someone just told me that Carlos was trying to speak and we were talking at the same time, but I can't hear him, so I don't know what to do about it. Okay, wait, let's see. Well, I opened his mic, but I can't hear him. Maybe he's talking in another channel. Carlos, you have the floor.
Carlos?
Hi, I'm
Afonso?
Carlos.
Carlos Alfonso.
Yes, Carlos, go ahead.
Yo creo que levanté la mano
No, I think I raised my
engaño.
hand by mistake. I'm so sorry.
Estoy
Oh, no
escuchando
problem.
solamente.
I'm just listening. I'm sorry. Okay, great. Okay. And then Jorge had a question. I did not understand what he meant by it. So please say it rather than write it so we can answer it. Let me see if I can find him. Unmute him. Okay, just a second. Okay, Jorge, go ahead. You can open your mic and talk. I think you're in the English channel, Jorge. No one can hear you. Okay, Jorge's mic is unmuted, but no one can hear him. Okay, well then, let's see. Rachel Gabriela then has the floor. Rachel, you can open your mic. Hi, good morning or afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the session, Mabel. I think it was really clear and detailed. My question is it possible to apply for a grant for projects that are coordinated between many chapters?
Yes, so we do encourage that kind of collaboration. So if a few chapters wanted to come together and apply for a grant, yes, they can absolutely do that. And I think we've seen applications like that in the past. So yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, creo que aquí hay otras.
Okay, great. Let's see. We have more questions, I believe. Okay, let's see. We have a question that I really can't understand either, which is who can help give accessory informations or requirements to present the project, but I'm not sure what it is you're asking about because maybe Mabel can understand. I think who can give us the guidelines to present the projects? I'm guessing that's the question.
Yes, well, I think our website is the best place to start in terms of guidelines. And then also if the Beyond the Net email box that I had mentioned, and maybe I'll put it in the chat, you can also email that and that goes straight to our program teams. And they do tend to respond within 24 hours. And they are speaking English and Spanish. So you can send a question and get a response fairly quickly. But we do encourage you to start with our website because we try and provide as much information there for people.
Luego hay otra pregunta, dice, ¿es el capítulo?
Then we have another question, which is the national chapter the person in charge or the group in charge of selecting which project will be sent out to ISOC Foundation, or is ISOC Foundation in control of everything?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to reviewing the applications and deciding if the chapter should receive funding, that is completely up to the foundation. That I can say in terms of, and because I should admit personally, I'm not so sure how it's submitted through the chapter, but I know that once an application has been submitted into our system, it is then in our court, and we decide, and we will decide if the organization should, if the chapter should get the funding, and that's decided by our program teams. And for Beyond the Net program, there is a selection committee that reviews the project. So yes, I mean, once we receive an application, the foundation makes the decision through the selection committee. I'm just not sure of the mechanics of what happens before we get the application. I'll be honest about that.
Muy bien, hay otra pregunta de Manuel.
Okay, there is another question by Manuel Rodas, which is the grant application only available for chapter members who are part of a work group or a committee, or can they present that application in an individual way? I can answer that because it is the chapter leadership who will be in charge of analyzing the member proposals, either if it comes from an individual member and not from a work group. It is the chapter leadership who will be deciding whether or not they can apply for that particular grant. It doesn't matter if this is presented by a committee or by a single member. Now, Oscar Benetti is explaining what he meant with his question that we didn't understand. It is whether if you only provide grants for research or if you only also provide equipment and materials if that is necessary for the investigation. And the question can be answered by me too. So when we are providing grants for a particular research project, and that research project requires certain materials and resources and equipment, we do provide funding for that too. Now, someone is asking about the Youth Ambassadors program. They're asking if that could be conducted in Spanish too, because there is a linguistic gap here, since it is not shared in Spanish. But actually, this has nothing to do with ISOC Foundation, I believe. This is connected to the learning programs that we have at the ISOC level. So we might be able to see in other sessions whether or not it's possible to have those Youth Ambassadors programs in Spanish. I think Alfredo had his hand up, but he brought it down. So let's see if we have more questions. Okay, Alfredo is ready to ask. Yes, thank you, and hi everyone participating here today. About several of the questions that were asked about sending proposals, I want to talk as a project assessor, actually, because I assess the project. So if in your project that you are presenting through your chapter, and of course you can present more than one application, there are several stages or steps. First, the proposal needs to be assessed inside the chapter committee. We make sure to see if that project meets the requirements, and then that proposal is sent out to an evaluating committee. Then if there is more than one proposal per chapter or per country, we go into this discussion, because we want to make sure that the funds of the foundation are being used in a very diversified way. Then if the proposal requires resources such as computers, software, or any sort of equipment, and that is duly explained and that is justified based on the project objective, then we can provide the funding for that. If that project, of course, has a wide reach and it has a strong impact among the entirety of the community. I'm sorry, someone is calling me. My phone is ringing. So, as I was saying, in that sense, please make sure that you consider all those requirements. You present that to your local chapter. But do remember that your local chapter can also help you draft that proposal before you present it to the
Muchas
foundation.
gracias, Alfredo.
Thank you,
Aquí tenemos
Alfredo.
otra pregunta.
There
Dice,
is
¿cuántas
another
personas son los
question,
responsables
which
de
is
cada solicitud?
how many people are responsible for the application? Is it just one person?
I'm not sure I'm the best person to answer that because I think it varies. I think it could be one person, but I mean, usually it's a team. It might be, usually we only see one or two names on the application in terms of the person that officially submits it. So I think it varies, but if anyone else knows better than me, please chime in.
Sí, es correcto. La
Yes,
aplicación
that's
normalmente
right,
yo
Mabel.
respondo porque es la
Normally, it
persona
is a
más
team who
especializada
presents the
y
application
además
because
dentro de la
that provides
aplicación
more strength to
decide
that
los
project, and
responsables,
also
por ejemplo, quién va a ser
the
la
project
persona
actually
principal del proyecto,
requires for you to say who is
recibir
the
consultas,
main
porque eso es más
applicant.
importante
We
también.
ask which are the
Primero,
organizations that are supporting the
quién va a
project
ser
as well.
las personas que van
And
a
we
ejecutar
also
el proyecto.
ask
Entonces,
who is going to be
una
executing
sola
and
persona
implementing that
no
project.
puede ser responsable de
So
todos
that
los
can't be
aspectos
just
y
one
por eso
person.
es
It's very hard for
necesario
one person to deal with all of those aspects of the project. So that project
varios
needs to be
responsables.
supported by several
Luego
people,
dice,
and
¿hay
several people need
límites
to be
de gramos
responsible
por
for it.
país?
Someone asked whether there's a limit to the number of grants that can be allotted per country.
So for the Beyond the Net small program, a chapter can have 2 grants at a time, assuming that the chapter is in good standing. And for the Beyond the Net large program, it's 1 large grant per chapter at a time.
Y bueno, creo que esta respuesta también
Oh,
va enfocada a
and
la
I
pregunta
also
de
think that
Maribel,
that answers Maribel's
cuántos
question, who was
capítulos
asking
podemos
how
tener.
many projects per
Dice,
chapter
¿cuántos
we could have?
capítulos
No,
se
wait, but
pueden
this is
presentar
per
efectivamente?
country. One is per country and one is per chapter. The question would be how many per chapter, how many per country?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know that we would restrict per country because I'm thinking, I know some countries have several chapters. And if we had, for example, 2 chapters in, I don't know, Brazil, I don't know if Brazil has 2 chapters, but this is just an example. But if they both submitted really good projects that we thought should go through, then but you know what? I'm not so sure. Maybe that's a question I can go back and ask the programs team because we haven't seen that situation, at least as long as I've been there. So it tends to usually just be 1 in the country. So let me check on that. And I can maybe get back to you all.
Perfecto, veamos, voy a revisar
Okay, great.
Q&A, aquí creo que quedaba.
Let me check the Q&A.
Dice que
Someone asks how large is a large grant?
So the large grants are up to $30,000. So that's the most a person would receive. They might receive less than that too, but it's up to 30,000.
Ok, creo que ya no tenemos más
But
preguntas.
okay, I don't think we have any
Creo
more
que podemos ir
questions,
cerrando la sesión.
so we can wrap this up. Thank you, Mabel, for participating and for sharing the different ways in which chapter members and chapters can apply for the different programs and the different grants available to them through the ISOC Foundation. And what I would recommend at the chapter member level is for you to join your local chapter in your work, contact your local chapter, and come to an agreement, work together, because it is likely that the projects that you have at a personal level might be a good match with the Beyond the Net funding. So that might help you work in collaboration in order to present that grant application that you want to present. I do want to remind you also that in 1 hour we will continue with the chapter workshop. We will start a session called ISOC Gurus. And in the ISOC Gurus session, we will have our regional experts talk about success cases and how they were successful and what their secrets and tips and tricks are in order to achieve success with their projects. So please come back in an hour using this exact same link. And now we will leave the session open so that you guys don't have to leave the session and continue sharing with us this afternoon. Thank you once again, Mabel, for participating today, and thank you all attendees. Thank you very much.